Mr. East,
Here.
Commissioner Hill,
Here.
Mr. J,
Present accounted for.
Mr. Long,
Here.
Mr.
All right, here. Thank you so much. And we have a special guest, previous board member, Mr. Chapman, with us. Why don't you lead us in the pledge this morning?
Right in. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great. Nice to have you, Andy. Okay.
Long.
I'm going to send it right back to you for.
No public comment at this time.
Okay, thank you. Very different from city council. We 3 hours last night. No, 2 hours. Okay, before I move forward, Commissioner Hill, I believe you wanted to move up some items.
Yes, Madam Chair, I was hoping the board would be okay if we moved up the F items, to the top. I have a TRPA, meeting that I'm trying to get to. If we could do the action items first, I'm so sorry for the request, but I appreciate the accommodation.
Absolutely, no problem. Okay, at this time, approval of the agenda. May I get a motion?
Move to approve.
I have a motion. I have
Second.
a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Item C2, approval of the minutes. May I get a motion?
Move to accept.
I have a motion.
Second.
Second, all those in favor say aye. All
Aye.
those opposed, motion carries unanimously. All right, so we are gonna run down to item F1, correct? Good with that? Okay. All right, let's head into item F1. Madam Clerk, any public comment on this item?
No public comment.
Okay. All right. Okay, this is the discussion and possible action regarding request on behalf of the city of Reno for the RSCVA to waive its right to receive the general services allocation payment for the city of Reno. Ben, do you want to weigh in, or I'm happy to also weigh in?
Yeah, however you want me to introduce it.
Whatever.
Sure.
Go for it, and then I'll interject.
Okay, so just to sort of set the stage here, so as everybody's aware, the city of Reno owns the National Bowling Stadium and Reno Event Center and has an agreement with the RSCVA for the management of those facilities. That agreement, I believe, dates back to 2002. It has 10-year terms. It's been extended twice, and the current term runs through 2032. The way the agreement's set up, the RSCVA pays the cost of managing the facilities. The city of Reno pays for capital improvements. To the extent that facilities generate revenue, those revenues are split between the RSCVA and city of Reno. To my knowledge, that's never happened. Those facilities have always had losses. In the agreement, in the event of a loss, there's what's called the general service allocation payment, which is a payment from the city of Reno to the RSCVA to basically assist in the administrative overhead that the RSCVA incurs by managing those facilities. The amount was set at $200,000 when the agreement was first executed. The agreement has escalations tied to the consumer price index. And currently the payment anticipated to be made for the current fiscal year 24-25, is $353,000. And that gets paid after the end of this fiscal year. And Ms. Jager might want to weigh in, but I believe it gets booked to the current fiscal year, even though it's paid technically in the next fiscal year. And we have a request on behalf of the city of Reno, two things. One, to waive that payment for the current fiscal year, and two, to provide instruction to staff to meet with the city of Reno to look at that agreement and see if there are changes that can be made going forward.
Yeah, thank you. And then just some backstory here. My fear is that those buildings obviously are not activated nearly enough. So that is a problem for room tax and getting people heads and beds downtown. I don't think there's an urgency to do so because of the way that this is structured. And I guess the easiest way, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Ben, to explain this is, it's like if all of you own a home and you rent out that home, but you're not getting paid for the rent, but you guys are all paying for the carpet to be replaced after it's used. So, and we take care of the CapEx, and we have not received any allocation in splitting the revenue because there hasn't been any. And that's very problematic. So I would like to look at, what does this look like when we have bowling tournaments in town? How do we right side the city? This was done, what, 26, if I have my math? No,
Three.
I don't know, 23 years ago. It's still on microfiche. And it's nothing that we have ever talked about at this board. It's never been brought up, to my knowledge, Mr. Larragetta,
Right.
in that sense. In that sense, and really downtown needs to get a kick in the pants and get activated. Meanwhile, like I said, the city is paying the CapEx on it. I would much rather have it be a relationship where we have urgency to get it activated. And from my knowledge, trying to go back, I will have the city of Reno come and make a presentation at the next board meeting. Or when we, maybe we have to make a presentation and then there can be discussion. I don't know what that looks like. And the reason being is to figure out how we got here, why we got here. Because to my knowledge, those buildings were actually owned by the RSCVA. And in this agreement, then they put the onus on the city. And cities don't do this well. And so we have to make this something that is equitable for everyone down there, but also, again, the urgency. Those sit vacant all the time. And I just don't think that the city should be in that business. And I don't know, maybe it's looking at giving them back to the RSCVA. I have no idea what that looks like. But at this point, we're paying you when actually I believe it should be the other way around, because then there will be urgency to get these activated. So that's where we're at. So I'll open it up for any discussion. Go right ahead.
Quick question, and kind of question for Courtney. So we've, in theory, booked this 353,000 troubles. And if we agree not to do it, what impact will that have on our budget for here?
So we use the 350,000 to offset expenses that exceed revenues of those buildings. So we would make offsetting cuts to expenses in the next fiscal year, since we're far into this current fiscal year.
Because we're 10 months into this year, correct?
Correct. So we would reduce expenses at the REC and NBS in the next fiscal year.
Yeah, so no offsetting for this year, it'd be next year.
Yeah, given that events are booked through 6/30 and our operational plan has been set through 6/30, we'd be looking at the next fiscal year.
And have you kind of planned that, assuming that this were to go through, no revenue coming in next year, have you built that into your budget?
It's something we've reviewed, but we haven't determined the exact areas to cut, but we're reviewing areas such as staffing, reducing contracts, things like that.
Thank you, thank you.
If the cuts are gonna be made in those two venues and expense loads in those two venues, doesn't that sort of create a death spiral? I mean, it feels like if we're saying, hey, the goal is to try to incentivize growth of those venues, cutting expenses commensurate with this revenue seems to be counterproductive to me.
That is correct. So we'd be working with the events team to see how staffing cuts would impact the events that they had tentatively booked in that next fiscal year, and which would need to possibly be cut as an offset.
Okay. I mean, this agreement also predates the $2 that downtown pays in addition in terms of room tax, I think. Am I mistaken, or is that?
Yeah.
Predates that? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And to be honest, Mr. East, I don't know any other way to get everyone to the table to figure out how we make this work.
I agree.
Not that I don't think, that the city should pay that, it's just that it's not doable anymore. And I just, I put the haunted house in there, and I've, we decide to do nonprofits, but it's still, it's a challenge. Right? So, and I just met with Lucky Strike too. We also have some challenges if we want to get someone to lease the bottom because of the F&B contract.
If I may, I'm sure. So Mike Larragetta for the record. So, one, we absolutely respect the request and we understand the situation the city is in currently and what the city is facing moving forward, like other public jurisdictions, as does the RSCVA as we prepare our budget.
for next fiscal year, we are most likely looking at as a deficit as well. So not to the level that some of our partners are, but we are absolutely in that position as well. So just a couple of things I wanted to comment on is that, the response of that the team is not aggressively, actively, passionately trying to activate those facilities is, in our opinion, not accurate. We have, I think, with the hiring of Chad Peters at National Bowling Stadium, with the hiring of Joe Seidman, with the request to have this board approve, which they did, to go out and get in the risk business on concerts at the REC. You'll see in my notes when I give my update later what Mr. Peters has done at the National Bowling Stadium as regards to activation in that facility. 50 of 52 weekends, there's an event in that building, 50 of 52 weekends this fiscal year. During the midweek, there's an event in that building, a minimum of one day, Monday through Friday, 53 or 51 out of 52 weeks. So I know from the outside, it looks like there's not an activation, but when you don't see cars parked because there's not a surface lot, it's a little bit deceiving. Also, as you are aware, Mayor, we have also, we're going through the process of issuing RFPs with approval from the city council to go out to bid to lease that space where the museum is located. We have 2 interested parties currently. We think that when we go out to bid, we will have more. So we are aggressively trying to activate both those facilities. We know
And
how
I
important it is to
appreciate
downtown
that. I
and the
do.
theater as well.
I appreciate that, which is great. I also want to know when you're booking it and you're telling us that you're booking it, I want to know how that converts into room nights too. I think that is important. I also want to know, are they paying rent? I don't know what that looks like. Are they paying you rent whenever they go in there as a tenant or the event? Do they? And also, it was an uncomfortable conversation when we talked about activating with concerts. And why is that? Why is that? I'd like to know. And that's because there's fear of competition in downtown. So then people don't want to support that. And so really, it's been very counterproductive. And it's no wonder that those facilities sit the way that they do, because it has never been structured that it was something as an asset. It was seen as something that takes away from everyone else downtown. So I apologize, but I am going to push back a little bit. And I appreciate you because let me tell you something, Mike, you were super supportive and said, we got to get these activated. We got to do whatever we can on the concert side. I think that's another thing to look at. We probably have to invest more if we really want to be serious about putting concerts down there. But to be honest with you, it's been seen as something as competition. So there has been no desire to get it activated to that level. But under your leadership, thank you. I appreciate it so very much that you have said, let's put concerts in there. It's always been no, no, no. So that isn't helpful either. I know this is an uncomfortable conversation, but it's the right one to have.
Agree.
I'll jump into on, I think we all have our thoughts, and I don't want to spend all the time on the activation. I think on that discussion though, where it got complicated is it the RSCVA's, is it the risk reward on the RSCVA, or is it the promoter world, right? And it's, I mean, Joel's probably the best to speak to it because he's in that world. But I get, these facilities are challenging. I mean, and I'll get back to that point, but I'm totally, I think the discussion is long overdue of if the contract, whatever was put in place 23, 24 years ago. I think sitting down and trying to get all the parties together of how do we make this thing work, or at least be more productive. As far as foregoing payment, I'm against it because I just feel we're on a slippery slope. I feel that you have 3 public entities that are all in financial challenges right now. The agreement is, if we're talking about next year going forward and we don't have the budget hit, I'm more open to figuring out some way that we find there. But I do think this is a great point of a standalone facility. There is not a moneymaker standalone facility. I think there's a few. There might be Madison Square Garden. I don't know about Staples Center. I mean, Allegiant maybe. There's 3 or 4 in the country, but these facilities are used right to generate. It's that ancillary. It's why you do want to have it attached. I mean, this isn't the same comparison, but it's why we built the Tuscan Tower onto the pepper mill. It's to generate, if we were weighing the Tuscan Tech, or I mean the Tuscan Ballroom, if we were weighing the Tuscan Ballroom out, it's a loser. I can't make it off food and beverage and I can't make it off rental. But I can fill hotel rooms and I can drive a casino and I can drive dining outlets. So in a way, we almost have to get back to where we're looking at this a little differently too. And I'm not saying to accept being in the red the whole time, but it's just such a different machine. And I don't disagree that it can't be, you know, it's got challenges too, right? Booking it. But I think when I walk into this room, I take the peppermill hat off and I put the RSCVA hat on. And I can't to forego a payment that is due us. I can't do it. It's, you know, we just did 250,000 for TARP to carry them. I don't know if it was 2 months. That was the third or fourth time. I think some of these swings, they're big numbers. And I think, you know, really, I almost think we should have started the meeting with room tax collections and where the budget's at, because I think we too are gonna have to be hunkering down. But so I can't go with foregoing. I think we wanna get creative, or if it's a payment plan, but from my standpoint, I'd like to spend more time and energy looking at how do we redo this contract so it's a win-win going forward, but.
And I wanna point out that none of us were there when this started, so, you know, I'm not blaming anyone, right? Like, we're all in this situation together. But also, I need partners at the city. You're gonna take downtown. You really are.
Yeah, I think if I may too, just another comment, Mike Largetta for the record, is again, we as a staff understand the ask, and we respect that. But I think to Mr. Schwaba's point, and I think Mr. Reese's point as well, is that this is such a bigger discussion about those facilities in general, right? I mean, we are doing everything that we possibly can and think of to be creative on booking business in two buildings that are pretty much limited, right? They're very limited to, they were built for a specific purpose: entertainment, sports, and bowling. And to be able to utilize the additional space within those facilities for other purposes, it can be challenging.
Yeah.
And, you know, we have thought out of the box a little bit. We have tried to get creative, you know, from hosting dances or receptions or the Davis Cup at the REC. I had a meeting this week with an organization looking at naming rights opportunities of branding those facilities. Not even know whether if that is something we can do when we don't own them, but we are trying to find revenue streams for those facilities because they are restricted and they're a challenge because they're so limited,
Mhm.
right? And not to use that as a excuse or cop out of our ability to book them and activate them. It's just they are what they are,
Mhm.
right? And not being able to put coverage over those 78 lanes because of the engineering and the weight structure really limits us in that building.
Mhm.
It's a bowling center.
Listen, I totally understand that, but I have to put my city hat on. This is a conversation that probably should have been had a long time ago. The city cannot put it on the backs of them anymore. And so I know it's uncomfortable, but it's something that needs to be said. And you're right, those buildings are very, very challenging. But I mean, like, you know, we should have a massive burner bowl. We should have the sock hop bowl whenever Hot August nights. I mean, that demographic loves a bowling event, right? And those are the things I'm talking about. And I think those are easy wins. Burner bowl, turn off the lights, you know, everyone go at it. It would be very cool. You know, those are easy wins. I'm not saying that's gonna obviously fix everything. I'm just saying, I think there are some events that we could really expand on in there. A sock hop bowl, a huge sock hop in there. How awesome for Hot August nights, right? Like I'm just saying, like, there's certain low-lying fruit that I think we don't even go after. And so if, you know, this is an uncomfortable conversation that we need to have to make it something that eventually there's some light at the end of the tunnel, then that's my objective here for everyone. Because it's hard on you too. You didn't want this. You know, here you go, Mike. Right. And Chad, I don't know you well, but I love your enthusiasm. You're the first one I have ever seen that really has come into that building with heart and soul. So I have a lot of optimism for what you want to accomplish. And I've been in a couple meetings with you and I'm like, this guy's a rock star. So
Yeah.
I do
And
appreciate
it's a
that.
little bit, just, I mean, just to put it in front of the board as well, it's a little bit of a double-edged sword because, and we had a conversation yesterday with Mr. Murphy, the United States Bowling Congress, talking about potential extension and what that looks like and competing against other destinations that are generating more teams. And as you know, within their agreement, we have capital guarantees that we have to make back to that building, such as replacing those lanes, which is, most of it comes out of the surcharge. But as we push to put more public bowling or event bowling or sock hops or burner bowls into that facility, damage to the lanes,
Yeah,
ramps up the time period, we have to allocate those surcharge monies and our monies to replace those lanes, so it's that tug of war.
yeah, definitely.
Finding
And
a
it's
happy
hard
medium.
because that surcharge, we'd love to be able to use it to expand other events downtown and
Yes.
really activate what we're trying to get accomplished down there. We can't do that. That's what I'm saying. It's, you know, and maybe there's a bigger discussion, put them all on the market. Right? So anyway, go ahead.
Thank
Shirley?
you, Madam Chair.
Oh,
I
I'm
don't-
sorry.
Let me see. I'd like to kind of take us in a different direction. I think, really the facilities, none of our facilities, and from what I understand, way back when I got on this board, went to a DI conference and they were shocked that we, you know, we're either owning and or operating so many different facilities, are not moneymakers like your ballroom. They bring in the groups that bring the room tax, that bring economic development for every event that we have. So before I came on this board, and I know you've been here a while, I think there were $7 million deficit on facilities. And in the 4 years I've been here, the work that has been done by staff in activating and utilizing our facilities has improved dramatically. But at the end of the day, we're not going to make money on those. The money we make, if you want to look at it in that other pot, is how many room tax dollars come in. And then how much economic, you know, activity comes with that, whether it's bowling, whether it's volleyball, all of the economic impact each event brings is where our money is, and that's what draws them is our facilities. So facilities aside, this contract, which I agree with Mr. Squaga, I'm really willing to look at how do we sit down and rethink or renegotiate what the terms of this contract are. But my understanding, and I don't know, Mike or Ben need to let me know on, this is it's to offset the loss, because in the contract, if there was a profit, we'd share it. Well, there hasn't been profit. So it's offsetting our loss, but Mr. Larragetta, it's not covering what our losses are. It's just an offset. And maybe that's a Courtney question on how much are we expending on the management, on the services we're providing to operate and manage the facilities downtown. How much we're spending. This is, I would guess, is just a small offset on how much do we budget on, what is our total cost on just the 2 downtown facilities for our management?
Yeah, so in the prior fiscal year, those facilities lost 4.1 million, and year to date, they've lost 2.9. So the 350 is used as a small portion to offset those losses. The remainder is absorbed by RSCVA route tax.
Okay, so really, I guess for me, the problem I have with this ask today and as we move forward, it's a very small offset. We're shouldering most of it. And then in addition, on the capital improvements, we don't own the facilities, Reno does, and Reno is responsible for CapEx, like you said, CapEx projects. But in the last 2 years, what is our breakdown? We have decided as a board that we wanted to make major capital improvements that we needed, from the scoreboard to the suites to the bowling center. How much have we spent that we didn't have to, but we knew it was needed? So I think RSCVA stepped up in a big way on how much have we allocated in just CapEx?
So
Major
contractually,
projects.
the RSCVA pays for capital expenditures under 10,000, and the city contractually is obligated over 10. In the last several fiscal years, we've taken on a lot of projects over 10 voluntarily. The suite remodel, last year we closed that out at 300,000, the laser screen projector at 144,000. We also have expenditures in this current year that we weren't planning to ask the city for reimbursement either.
Okay,
And
so
the
we're
room
investing.
tax comes from downtown properties, correct?
Repeat your question, sorry.
Room tax, tell me where room tax comes from.
So
Yeah,
request
yeah.
comes from, yep, all the districts, Reno, Washoe County, Sparks.
There's a 1%, correct? 1% to the bowling stadium that we all pay.
Correct. So if you look at by statute, how the room tax is allocated, within Reno D, 4.5% goes back to the city. Which if you look at this, the last fiscal year, based on room tax that was generated within that district, it was about $4.6 million. But, along the lines as the capital, and I know that's not the purpose of the discussion today, but just to add this to the discussion is that, again, we as staff, as we get ready to negotiate our management contract with the state on the RSLEC, we feel that cap number is very low, right? I mean, $10,000, you can break a pen and it costs you $10,000.
Yeah,
So, I mean, we feel that needs to be looked at as well, and not knowing what that number is as we sit here today, but $10,000 was probably put in play 20 years ago when $10,000 actually got you something. And as we have looked at, and to Courtney's point, some of the capital things that we have held the bill for over the last couple of years, I mean, 12, 18, because again, that cap number is too low.
Yeah, and I guess just to finish up.
Okay, I wanna move on, because we.
So I can't make a
Alexis,
final point.
no, you can't, hold on a second.
Okay.
I'm gonna,
Sure.
cause I know Alexis has to leave, so I wanna just make sure, Alexis, let me know when you have to leave. Cause I wanna make sure everyone gets in on the discussion. Go ahead, Charlene.
Just my final point is that this offset is for the management services that we've been doing for 10 months out of this fiscal year. So it's services we've already provided. I have a really hard time saying that we're not gonna get reimbursed for services that have happened. I totally look at a new contract
understand
and
that.
rewriting, but for the amount, because it's already been done and it's in this year's budget, I don't support that, but I absolutely support. Let's open it up and see what we can do for the.
And I would agree with that, not to create any hardships. We're just in budget, so that's why we're talking about it now.
I'm there
So,
too.
right, so it's on top of mind, so that's why I brought it now, so that no one's surprised whenever we wanna write this contract in this capacity, and maybe it's looking at people that rent it, that they need to pay rent. Right? I mean, I don't know any landlord that's like, yeah, here, go ahead, and then I'll pay for everything else, right? That's not fair. So, it's just a conversation, that, previous CEO never wanted to have. But we're having it because I'm sitting in this chair. No one else wanted to do it
And we,
and have the uncomfortable conversation.
happy to have
But
the
also
conversation.
downtown, their hands have been tied too, and thanks to your leadership, you're the first one that has said, that's not right. And so I appreciate that, Mike, tremendously. But look how long it took us to get there, and that wasn't right either. It tied the hands of downtown and what we could activate and what we could do. And you know that very well. So anyway, okay, I need to go to Eddie, and I'm gonna go with Eddie Albert. Hello, good morning.
You can go to Commissioner Hill first. I know she's on a time schedule.
Okay, go ahead, go right ahead.
Oh,
Commissioner.
I was, okay, thank you so much, Madam Chair, and I just wanted you to clarify for the board, you're still carrying the debt on these buildings, the city of Reno is,
Yes.
correct?
Again, that's
And
my point. It's like having
so
a mortgage and
I
no one's
think-
paying rent.
I know. And so I think we are in unprecedented times as a community. And I think that we need to support the city of Reno in this request and renegotiate the contract. We're almost hitting 30 years, so it makes sense to get there. And honestly, when you look at how constrained the city of Reno's books are and the debt that they've taken on for these buildings, I think that we need to consider that as part of the conversation as well. So I'll be supporting the request today.
Yeah, listen, I also don't wanna, because it's a very popular talking point. I think Charlene will get this. When you sit there and you say, oh, everyone's sort of blaming, oh, look, the city of Reno is financially in trouble. That is, all of us are experiencing this, but I want to make it very clear. We're not talking about that because of this. This is something that we should have talked about a long time ago that I couldn't get to the table. And now I can, and I think we have to be much more responsible, I guess. I think we've been very responsible, actually, we've been very fiscally conservative. But this is on the backs of the city of Reno. But I want to make it clear again that we're not having this conversation because we're like, oh, now let's go find money. This is something that should have happened a long time ago. Whenever, whoever it was, the mayor at the time, I don't know when that was, or the council at that time, or who it was that said, hey, RSCVA is gonna give them back to the city so they can put the bill and pay the debt on them, the debt, right? So we pay the bonds on them, right? So, and again, the good news is none of us were there, so, so it's not personal, but thank you so much, I appreciate it. Mr. Officer.
Thank you, Mayor. Members, I've got a couple of questions that I want to get to in a second. Before I get there, though, I think it's really important. I think we're going on almost 6, 7 meetings in which Member Jay has warned us about an upcoming recession and how we need to be diligent with our dollars and our partners across the region. And I think that his prediction has come to fruition with what all of the state, many states in our surrounding jurisdiction area, and all of our municipalities are experiencing, and we more than likely are going to experience in the next couple of years. So I think it's really important that as an agency, we take this seriously, and Member Jay, I appreciate your perpetual guidance to us, and I hope that we can right the ship here. I have a question about the 353 in the packet. It says it's approximate. Why is that approximate?
So we finalized the billing based on agreed upon procedures that are performed to verify the CPI index. So we do not make that billing until we get that report. We pay a third party a small fee to verify that number, but we expect no changes because we pulled the CPI from the same source as them. But we wanted to leave that as approximate since we haven't paid the small fee to get the agreed on procedures done, because there's no purpose in doing that if we can't send the bill.
Thank you, Courtney. My second question has to do with this is going to offset costs that the building is experiencing that we operate for the purpose of tourism and recreation. Do other jurisdictions such as the county, the lake, or Sparks pay to offset the cost on these three facilities?
So no, so we do not receive a fee for the RSLEC. So that would be the only comparable situation because that's a building that we run that we don't own.
Okay, so I'm trying to understand this. We don't own we used to own these buildings. We don't own them anymore.
We don't own those buildings. So the city issued debt to construct those buildings. We do not own the Reno Event Center or the National Bowling Stadium. Those are owned by the city. And they issued debt to construct those buildings.
Did we owe them at one point?
Ben, can you confirm? I don't believe ownership of those buildings has ever been transferred to us in title form.
I was in law school when these happening, so I don't know who owned them originally, but I can find.
5 years of it?
This Washoe County at one point in that agreement of Washington.
Yeah. There was something with Washoe County and the bonds that may have been transferred to the city. I don't know the answer to that, but that's certainly something I can find out.
And I wasn't able to find anything in our records either that showed we had ownership, but we can certainly research that.
So in reading the contract, it appeared there was some sort of transfer, right? And that 2002 contract, and from what I was reading, it looked like there was some sort of agreement and why that contract happened. So I'd love to know a little bit more about what happened in 2002 for that contract and why it was transferred, or the ownership occurred in the way it did, and the management by RSCVA. I think that's an important distinction in how we move forward. I would also just ask, these buildings are the purpose and they're intended for tourism for the jurisdiction because they happen to be in Reno and then owned by Reno. In that relationship that occurred, there was an ongoing agreement to offset those costs for deficit. But however, Reno's the only one that is offsetting the cost for the deficit. Is that correct?
Correct. So per our agreement, the city of Reno pays approximately $350 per year. That fluctuates with CPI. We don't have an agreement with any other governments or entities to make us payments for those buildings as an offset. Because essentially that payment was for us running those buildings on the city's behalf since they're the current owners.
But Courtney, do you understand that what I'm trying to ask is the purpose of those buildings is not just for the city of Reno, right? The purpose of those buildings is for Sparks, for Washoe County, and for the lake. And the lake, Washoe County and Sparks aren't paying to offset the deficit, correct?
That's correct. There's never been a contractual agreement for those other jurisdictions to make payments.
Can I go back? I apologize to everyone. I missed the meeting last month, but the money we sent for the busing up at the lake, has that been finalized?
250 and then possible split deals.
And then,
Yes.
you talked to Billy.
I can answer that, Madam Chair.
Yeah, go right ahead, and also, yeah, go ahead.
Yes. Thank you. First of all, I don't think it's accurate, I could be wrong, to say that room tax is not paid from the other jurisdictions to these centers. We just heard that a percentage is paid of room tax for these buildings. But Courtney, if you could clarify that, or I could be incorrect, but I thought that Tahoe B did pay for that, or Washoe B. Anyway, yes, we approved the TART Connect funding. RTC will be cutting a check to RSCVA for 125. That was approved at our budget meeting this month.
Yeah,
So
I can answer go ahead. To answer your question, Ms. Hill, so correct. Every jurisdiction pays or has a 1% allocation towards the city of Reno towards National Bowling Stadium.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
So
We just aren't a party to this agreement on the shortfall, on the operating shortfall. But we're all funding the bowling stadium.
Right,
Yeah.
every jurisdiction is contributing 1% of the room tax generated towards the city of Reno's bowling stadium debt.
Courtney, sorry, that money is going to RSCVA, or is that money going to City of Reno?
That money is given directly to the city of Reno for them to make payments towards the National Bowling Stadium debt.
So you have other jurisdictions. So from RSCVA is paying for the debt, basically, right? From all of our regions.
So essentially, each tax district has a total tax rate of either 13% or 13.5. Out of that 13%, 1% generated in each district is paid back to the city of Reno. For statute, the purpose of that is for National Bowling Stadium debt.
Okay, and then
How does that come to? Sorry, Eddie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go
ahead,
Eddie.
We could definitely pull that.
Sorry,
and provide it to members after the meeting.
It's tied to the room tax that's generated by those specific districts.
Okay.
Taxes.
oh, okay. And then to Commissioner Hill's point, so 125,000 is getting paid back to RSCVA by RTC. Is that correct?
That's correct. So we're paying 125 towards TART Connect, and we'll have a discussion as part of our budget building if we want to continue those payments in the future.
Okay. Yeah, I guess so. Those are my questions. What I would say at this point, Mayor and members, I sort of get the position that the city is in because they are the ones that have the ownership of the building. I've asked this question and I've brought up some concepts around NRS 244A and our authority as a fair and recreation board to be able to sort of grow the work that we do. And we have a lot more flexibility than municipalities in which we sit in underneath statute. I think that, Mayor, I would like to make a motion that we direct staff to find a pathway to move those facilities underneath RSCVA. I think it is the responsibility of the RSCVA. I think it should live within us and the duties of what we do. I don't know why the city has to be put on the hook. If this was in Sparks or if this, the situation going on at the Livestock Event Center and the absolute confusion that exists about who owns the land, who owns the buildings, who operates the leases, the many different confusing aspects on that facility. I think it'd be clean, since we are charged at being the tourism board, tourism arm for this region, that we own those facilities, we take the responsibility of those facilities, we work with our jurisdictions and our partners to absolutely grow the work that needs to be done there. And if not, right, if we need to sell those facilities or change the use of those facilities, those are things that we should look at. 244A gives us the ability to actually be more aggressive in paying down that bond debt, where the city doesn't have the flexibility to do so. And so I think it's incumbent upon us as the board to take a hard look in bringing all those facilities within our purview and our ownership and fix it. In regards to the item today, Mayor and members, I feel uncomfortable about going backwards on the full breadth of the deficit. I do see the inequity that exists there. And I think everyone's paying into it, but the city of Reno is the only jurisdiction that's doing this offset piece. I wonder if there's a figure that Courtney, you can give us, now that the TART dollars went down from 120 or 250 to 125, what exists in our contingency fund that we might be able to help offset that? And then in our budget builds looking forward, take a hard look at that. Do you have that number at all, Courtney, on where we're at now that RTC is sending money back to us on that TART Connect issue?
Yeah, so
and
the unsolicited
what do we have?
proposals fund, until we have formally heard back that our RTC was going to remit that payment, we're not accepting new unsolicited proposals. So as of today, that entire 125 would be available. We could hold off on reviewing any new unsolicited proposals that come in and use that as an allocation towards this, if that was the board's direction.
Don't we have, thanks, Courtney, but don't we have another fund, we have the unsolicited fund, but also the special events portion of fund? Is that fully expended?
So let me take that question. So, Mr. Atlas, Mike, I get it for the record. So there are two funds within the unsolicited fund. One in the amount of $50,000, which allowed staff to approve anything up below $10,000 before it went to the subcommittee for approval, and then possibly to the board. Getting the half of the allocation of the 250 back from RTC, those funds would go in that larger bucket. The smaller bucket is almost exhausted or close to it, in a smaller amount. We have received, I believe, 3 unsolicited requests for sponsorship and funding since we were made aware that the 125 was coming back to the RSCVA from RTC. And one of those will be moving forward to the finance committee for approval because it does exceed 10,000. So there would be, we still have obviously 70 days left and 65 days left in the fiscal year. We anticipate that if not all, the majority of those funds will be requested between now and June 30th.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Larraguetta. And Mayor, I would just end my comments with saying, I think it's difficult looking at the budget crunch across the board, but I do see that we have contingency funds within RSCVA that exist based on the RTC, based on those other special events dollar amounts. I don't know the dollar amount, but I would request that we perhaps utilize all those funds that are available today, and that's incoming, and then maybe even look outward and close off the special events fund for 25, 26, and say that let's use this to pay off the burden that city of Reno has been carrying for so long. And then I'd be interested in a motion as well on fixing this contract and how do we bring the ownership of these facilities over to RSCVA so that we can be more aggressive in paying down that debt and fully maximizing the use of those facilities.
Okay, I really appreciate your support very much. I appreciate that a lot. I wanna now put on my RSCVA hat because that's why I'm here. So I think there are 2 sort of issues here that we're looking at. One is to go back and look at the contract, right? And I want to move us forward. I'm going to make this I think, as easy as possible. So we agree to go back and look at that contract and figure out, can we get better wins with everyone, right? That's completely separate from the payment. The other thing is with my RSCVA hat, I don't want to put the RSCVA in a position where it's like, oh, what is this? And all of a sudden, I had no idea. Did you know about the GSA? Mike didn't know either. I didn't know either. Right? And I was like, wait, this is strange. This seems a little lopsided and, you know, so I just, and so if we didn't know, then I know you guys didn't know. So moving forward into the next year, and maybe that is part of what we come out of the conversations and discussions when we move into sitting down. I assume you're gonna be there, Ben, sitting down with the city of Reno attorneys, and we can look at that, right? Because I don't want to put anyone, and especially not this organization, because I care deeply about our mission, what we're doing here, and I want to make it easier on all of you, so you don't have to take a tough position. That we look at it, and then if that's something moving forward, then we can decide whether to allocate it or not.
Agreed.
All right. Greg, do you want to read?
Yeah, just really quickly, I just do want to just clarify that the TOT that is collected up in the Washoe B district, that at least 3% of that does go back to Reno for the payment of the bonds on the facilities here in Reno. So we are paying into that. And I do believe that these facilities are really important to the tourism product in Reno, but the contract does need to be looked at.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. Okay, go ahead.
So kind of following up on Eddie's comments, so our room tax collections are roughly 40 million, right, Courtney?
Correct, yeah, around 40 to 45.
Okay, I'm just looking at about 39, so call it 40 million one way or another. 1% would be $400,000. That theoretically goes back, not theoretically, that goes back to Reno. That's correct.
So that 1% would be based on total taxable room revenues, which are about 400 million. So that's the RSCVA doesn't pay the amounts back to the city. That amount in our budget is just our 6.625 plus our 2%,
Okay, so it'd be 1% of,
around 400.
so that's about 4 million. And the debt on the bowling stadium is significantly more than that. The interest on it, I know, has been refinanced to a much better rate given the current rates at the time, but it's still. It's making a dent, but not a big dent.
Exactly, correct. Yeah, it helps contribute, but doesn't cover the entire
That
portion.
doesn't, I would suspect maybe 25% of it, barely.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to put it,
25% of what?
the total bond issue debt for the bowling stadium. Principal and interest.
And how is that paid, Courtney? So that they know it's tied to that? Because I'm asking the questions and they're saying no.
Yeah, so the RCVA collects all room taxes for all of the districts, and then we remit directly to the city, the county, and the
No,
city of
but for the
Reno.
1%.
That 1% is paid to the city of Reno.
So the RSCVA writes a check to the city of Reno?
Every month, yeah, every month we remit to Washoe County, city of Reno, and the state per statute. All of those different entities receive a portion of room taxes. The RCVA collects all room taxes.
But that payment comes from the RSCVA.
Because we collect it. It's not a payment, it's a pass-through essentially. It's not a payment that would come out of our budget. It's not our $40 million.
It's a pass-through
portion. Correct.
Room tax.
It's kind of like how the
Yeah, okay, I
state,
got it.
collects taxes and then remits them to the different entities. That's the same thing the RCVA is doing in terms of room tax.
So we either cut a check or wire the money.
Exactly, yeah,
On a
it's a
monthly
pass-through
basis.
because we're the collection agent.
Okay, the other thing I would request too is that our budget director is here, because I'm getting different answers. And I think everyone is confused, or I think we can clarify much better when we have our budget director here.
Yeah, and I think we can also put together all the payments that we've made to the city and the different entities too.
That
That
would
way
be
you have a
great.
list of that. I think that would be great.
That would be great.
Perfect.
All right, so I don't wanna. be the
Mayor.
dead horse. Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to be clear. We're talking about $353,000 of GSA for the wear and tear CapEx on the building, not the bond payment, correct?
Right.
Correct.
So these are two totally different things. I appreciate
what I'm
everyone
saying.
clarifying. Everyone pitches in for the bond payment, which then goes backwards to my point on why doesn't RSCVA just then own it? And we could be more flexible and aggressive with our, our revenue bond fees that we can possibly create. But that's a separate conversation. Today, the 353 has to do with a burden that the city of Reno only encumbered, no other jurisdiction has. And
I'm sorry, Mr. Abster, my thought again, just for clarification. So you're correct. They are two separate items. However, the money that is paid by the city of Reno to the RSCVA for the management agreement is to offset the losses and impact the fixed cost on these buildings. I mean, the fixed expenses on these buildings are significantly high. And I had Courtney pull that just so we would be able to share that information with the board. So year to date through February, just to kind of put things in perspective, the National Bowling Stadium, the fixed cost is almost $2.2 million. That is just through February. And at the REC, they're 1.731. So those monies that the city provides us based on a loss, which unfortunately has been the case every fiscal year, are to go to offset some of those fixed costs.
But Mr. Lair, get it. So, but those fixed costs, we are floating that as an authority, correct?
That's correct.
And the city of Reno is the only jurisdiction helping to offset some of those deficits.
Fixed costs, yes. However, each district does contribute room tax back to the facility as a whole.
But that's to the bond, am I wrong? I thought that's to pay down the debt.
Yes, so the room tax would go to the city of Reno, which we assume goes to their payment to the bonds, whether it's interest only or principal based on each facility that they own, that the RSCVA may operate. These operating costs are absorbed by the RSCVA. So these fees that we collect on an annual basis per the management agreement go to contribute to offset these fixed costs that we put into our budget every year. That's it.
Maybe I'm missing something.
Yeah, so I think we're talking about two different things and they might be getting mixed together a bit. So for example, for the last fiscal year, the operating expenses for those two buildings were 6.8 million. We had revenues of 2.6 million that partially offset those expenses. The remaining 4.1 million was offset by RSCVA room tax revenues and then the general services allocation. So essentially what we're talking about today is the $350 payment that helps us offset the losses. The point that Ms. Hill had brought up was the room tax allocations. Like there is a portion of room tax from each district that is remitted to the city towards their bond payments on facilities. So two different things.
Mm-hmm. That's why I think we need a breakdown presentation.
Yeah.
Like I said, we didn't know the GSA existed, and then I'm like, well, wait a minute, we're using the room tax, CapEx, all that stuff. Right?
It's almost, I don't mean to interrupt you, but it's almost like a whiteboard.
Right.
It's
No,
complex
this starts
outdoors,
here,
like-
this starts here, yeah.
But I mean, I need to see pictures because right.
It's very, yeah, it's very complicated, and I don't think you can really understand it until you see it. So that's why
GSA been played every year, in Reno,
for 26 years,
do you put it in your
or
budget?
23 years.
Right, but I mean, is it in your budget for this fiscal year that you knew that offset was there and we've been?
Yeah,
Reno's
that's why I'm
been
saying I
paying
don't
it.
wanna convolute it, let's do two
Okay.
different things, let's get to the table, let's figure it out. I don't wanna hurt our budget as well, because we all need that money. Right?
So the ask right now is the $350,000.
No,
The
it would be to go negotiate the contract, and then if that's in there, we're not paying the GSA.
gotcha. Okay.
That's the simplest way I can.
Yeah. No, that's perfect.
Or it's restructured to a point
Something,
that
Yeah.
feel like, okay, everybody's.
something is amenable to looking at, maybe we get lineage fee, I don't know.
But something.
But I mean, or we close it, and if you wanna rent it, then you're gonna pay a fee to rent it, and we're gonna use that room tax to activate downtown in other ways, or something to that capacity. I don't know, but something where I think it's much more palatable for the city to be a partner in this.
So do you need a motion, Madam Chair?
Yeah, what's the?
Well, I think you were trying to.
You can,
Yeah, that's what I was trying to figure out. What would the motion be?
Okay, maybe
Can I-
I make, let's move forward with having Ben sit down with our attorneys at the city of Reno to negotiate a new contract, bring it back. Well, and before we did that, I would have our budget department come, break down so we can all better understand it. So before we're sort of negotiating, because I think that's important. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I'm trying to sort of think logistically how this would work, and I think it'd be staff, and I'd be sort of part of staff, and we'd be directing staff to meet with the city of Reno to identify some alternatives, and whether we want to bring it back to this board again before we have that meeting for a sort of presentation and breakdown,
Yeah,
or whether we want to have those meetings and sort of do everything at once when we bring it back. I think that's.
let's do everything at once, because then that just gets us going sooner. Let's do everything at once, bring it back, but I also think we have to have that presentation because it's complex and everyone can understand it. And in the meantime, Mike and our team and you also sit down with the budget director. So it helps you negotiate. So you understand, frankly, where everything came from.
And I would assume it's gonna be a process. It's not gonna happen in 2 weeks. So I think I can offer a suggestion. I think it would be a motion to direct staff to meet with the city of Reno to identify some alternatives for this contract. Perfect. As that's going, at some point, we'll get a broader presentation here by the city of Reno to the board. And at some point, staff will bring something back to the board for consideration.
Just to clarify, Ben, are you, sorry, are
Oh.
you recommending for next fiscal year?
Correct. I think the 353, we're not seeking that at this point.
Right.
We're just giving.
But that's for
direction.
the next year.
Yeah.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Not now, but next year, we're in budget, so that's why I'm bringing it up now.
So.
And I think there was some confusion
Yes.
Yeah,
of right now.
yeah, so you'll.
That's not what I'm asking for now, it's later on the GSA.
Moving forward.
Yes, so the city will make the payment for this
Does that make
350
sense?
for this fiscal.
Because we have it budgeted in, but not next year.
Got it,
Got it.
got it.
So if I can make the motion to have staff meet with City of Reno staff to help coordinate a presentation for future next fiscal year budgeting purposes.
I'll second.
Can
the
I-
motion.
Can I,
So I have a motion, I have a second, go ahead, Mr. Alviser.
so I appreciate the direction where it's going. We do have, to my understanding, we still have contingency funds that we can dedicate to the current fiscal year. And I'm comfortable with those contingency funds that have been negotiated with RTC coming back to us. Is that not on the table? Because I think that would be helpful, in moving forward. Or does that need a wait? Do we need to wait to act on that until the conversations happen between the city and staff?
We don't know what it's gonna be, so it'd be.
Yeah, my recommendation is just hold off. And
Okay.
I really appreciate your support. I really, really do, but I think we hold off until we have a better idea of what that looks like and entails and because I want it to be fair, putting on my RSCVA hat, right? Trying to balance both here, guys.
Yeah.
So,
Can staff also pursue what it would look like if RSCVA owns the buildings? Can we go down that path?
I think you could look at different scenarios. It doesn't matter what it is. Mike is over here squirming. Because he knows what a lift that is. But I think any scenario, we're open to anything. I mean,
Pretty open-ended.
it could be someone wants to, buy that land and build on it or expand, or I don't know. But I will say this board, and not all of you when I say this board, but this organization made it really challenging. I've sat on this board for 10 years and they have not wanted to do honestly, like anything to really help move the needle when it comes to those properties. And I'm not talking about activation. I'm talking about other instances that everyone's very familiar with, whether it's contracts for carpet or turning down, you know, there were some players that came into the market that promised us the sun, moon and the stars, remember that, and that didn't go so well, and you know, that, and it really tied the city's hands and actually the RSCVA. But like you can get some people in there, you know, there have been big players that have wanted to be, you know, putting hockey in there and doing some other really cool things. And now it's time to be open to whatever we can to make downtown great again. You know what I mean? Charlie's laughing. I have to say it's
For your red.
Yeah. Anyway, that'll be all over the news. Anyway, so I hope I'm clear. The motion is, let's go negotiate in hopes of something that's a better situation for all of us. And then we can all take a look at it and see what's fair, what isn't. Let's get a presentation to the board the next meeting on our budget from the city of Reno and what that looks like, how we got here, the whole backstory. And then we can decide for next budget what that looks like, whether you want to fund the GSA or not.
Well, I think too, with the understanding that, and maybe it's not even an action item next month, I think we're gonna need time to absorb some of this on. I get nervous too when we're saying, well, RSCVA, I just take ownership of the facility, or I think there needs to be a true partnership. And again, whatever, like I'm leaving it, right, we're leaving it to Ben, Courtney, Mike, staff, your staff on the city of really sitting down and going, how do we make this equitable for everybody? There is a greater area too, right? The lake, I mean, our district, if we're, and again, the last thing I want to do is where we're splitting hairs of it. I'm in District B and we generate, you know, we don't get our. I think we all want just a plan where everybody shares the burden and shares the upside, right? But I don't know, it's gonna be almost a workshop. It might be, I mean, I think the one thing when we go down the scenarios of, well, we'll just shut the bowling stadium. That's a spiral too on the collection of that. Probably more so downtown.
It's huge because
So-
think about how much the bowlers bring in.
And when we look at a presentation too, I'd like to see comparability between the Livestock Event Center and RSCC in terms of what the treatment is of those compared to these buildings as well. Because I think we set a precedent back in 2002 that we've now deviated from dramatically since then over the last, 10 years or so, that we need to try to resolve. I don't know about the transfer of ownership, because I have a feeling that the debt is gonna have to follow ownership, right? I think you can't have one entity own the place while another entity owns a debt, because I don't think the bondholders would like that very much.
Right.
Right.
I just don't know how to get everyone else at the table. This is the only way I know how to have the conversation to say, hey, wait a minute. What's the incentive here? And there's also been this, lack, I guess there's this competition that we've had for a long time. I think it's getting better. This board is doing a better job of collaborating. But I think that has hindered the activation of these properties. Let's be really honest. Because there is a sentiment that if that's activated, it takes away from other properties. Let's be honest. That's the elephant out in the room, and that's what's happened here. And I'm grateful for all of you for, wanting to be problem solvers and understanding the challenge here, because that's helpful. But I don't know how else to get anyone to the table to realize that this has got to be something we've got to do together. I can't have a building where I'm like, yeah, just use it for free and we're going to pay all the CapEx and we're going to pay the debt on it. Right? And meanwhile, you got to pay your people to have those events so that we can get room tax from the bowlers, which is a great thing. Right? So having that go away would be highly detrimental. But at this point, I don't know how to get partners to come along and help. Unless we have this tough conversation. So I appreciate all of you. Like I said, the good news is none of us did this agreement and had any say in that, so that's a good thing.
Ben was in law school, I was only in high school.
Trying to up you, bet. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those,
Can I
yeah, go
just,
ahead.
just point of clarity, just because we've talked a lot since we've made the motions. The motion would be to direct staff to meet with the city of Reno to discuss the contract, identify alternatives and bring those back to the board.
Yeah.
Is that a fair summary
For fiscal year 25-26.
Yes,
for next fiscal year?
yes. Okay, all right. Okay, so I have a motion, I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries. Okay, thanks so much. Moving on. We have to go to the Travel North Tahoe, Nevada legislative presentation. I guess it's you. Oh, Alexis is still there, so yeah. come on.
Go to F3, because that is a action that you do have on your
Oh,
agenda.
yeah.
Mine's an informational. piece
Perfect.
only.
Okay, sounds good. Let's do it. So, process of appointment for the RSCVA representative, to. Okay, who wants to jump in? We do this what, every
Every year.
several
Tee
years?
this up, so the RSCVA has the authority to appoint a seat to the Reno Tahoe Airport Authority Board of Trustees. Those are 4-year appointments. You can serve a maximum of 2 years. So the last time we made a new appointment was 8 years ago. Today, we just want some direction from the board on sort of the process we want to put in place to make that appointment. The last time we did it 8 years ago, to the best of my recollection, board members sort of submitted names and then those names were put before the board for consideration. So we could certainly do something like that, where if people have individuals in mind that you want to be considered, you can reach out to me or Mike and we can assemble those names and bring them back to the board next month to decide. Another option that I discussed with the chair, if we want to open it up to let anybody apply that wants to apply, similar to what the municipalities do when they're making appointments. We could do that, where we could have people submit a letter of interest, put them on a list. I think the issue there is, if we get back 50 letters, do we want them run that through a committee to narrow it down before we bring it back to the full board? We're sort of open to discussion and from direction from the board on the best way to proceed. The sort of one caveat is, per statute, we have to have the appointment made by June 15th. So ideally, we would make it at next month's meeting. But other than that, willing to take thoughts or direction from the board. I think sort of the alternatives we've identified are the board proposes names and those names will go on the list for board consideration, or we open it up more generally to the public. And then if we do that, what's the process of narrowing the list of names down if we get a bunch of them?
I can throw something there real quick. And also make sure that person understands they will be serving as chair at one point, because the rotation goes Reno, Sparks, Washoe County, RSCVA. So in 3 years, that person will serve as board chair of the airport.
Are those 1-year appointment, your chair?
Yeah, 1-year appointment starts July. So I think, one of the things we have to make sure is that person understands the commitment involved in being chair, both time and everything else. So, kind of say that right up front.
Could that person, if the timing hits, be thrown in the chair?
No,
Or-
No,
no,
because
it'll be Sparks next.
Sparks next,
Sean,
then Washoe County,
Sean,
then RSCVA. So Carol was previous year, so it's a 4-year rotation. So we're in year number 1. 4, so they'll have plenty of time, and theoretically, that person will serve as vice chair before becoming chair.
so I guess the moral to the story is, and also I will say it's a very active board. I also think that we need to be very connected. And so what I would also like to look at, and I don't think we've done it in the past that I can remember, is possibly sending someone from our board over there so that we are like this. Because I feel like there is a big disconnect with sort of our vision and their vision. I think they have 2 different visions, which I can understand. It, maybe it's just operation versus what our goal is. Our goal is air service. And I want to really dig in hard on that. I think we understand that over here. So I would just also advocate that in the past, we've always gone outside and put someone on there. And I would like the board to consider looking at some of us internally, whether it's our team or someone on the board. Because I do think we need to be really tied into the mission of tourism.
I agree wholeheartedly on that one
And
because
that's missing, to be honest with you. That's my biggest fear is over at the airport, it's missing greatly.
yeah, and if we have somebody from board or staff, in my opinion, they're tied even tighter. And, you know, I've worked real hard to try bring them all of us together more. But I think we can go to that next level, and that next level theoretically could be board member and or somebody from staff. That's just my opinion.
Ben, can we do that legally? I'm reading like our section here, which is kind of it's a strange, you and I talk about it being someone, and in our pre-board about someone in tourism, somebody that we wanted someone representing us as tourism. And what's ironic in the actual language, it's a trustee who represents consumers of services provided at the airport, which basically is passengers, which would open it to anybody who.
We're all
applies.
consumers though.
Yeah, everybody, so
We're
the
all
consumers, but it's an odd kind of wording that they put in here, but could we legally put someone on this board or staff with RSCVA?
Serve, yeah.
Can we, is there any legal problem? I just wanna make sure there's no legal issue.
I've looked at it
Mhm.
and it doesn't say anything.
Right, it just says that they have to be representative of the consumers of the airport, but I think if we wanted to add additional qualifiers like be involved in tourism or whatever, we can do that. So yeah, I'm comfortable with that, and I have
Yeah,
not,
just double checking.
I've not read this act to make sure that, to make sure it doesn't say we can't appoint a member of our board, but I don't believe it does. Based on my review, I'm not recalling anything, but before next month's meeting, I'll definitely take a look and make sure there are no issues there, but I don't believe there are.
And I'll let the board decide, but that would just be my recommendation is sending someone on our side of the fence over there.
I like the idea of back to, you know, Ben's either or of how we do it. I think it does need to be that the board will submit recommendations and, you know, nominations that we would put forth. I think for expediency's sake, we need to do that too. And if any of the board members want to open it up to the public at large, well, then that would be their responsibility to do the vetting, and it would streamline the process a little bit for us, I think.
So would it just come back?
So Mike,
to
are
our
you
next
interested?
meeting? Yeah,
Whatever you need.
because we have to do it at our next meeting, right? So we've got a time crunch here.
Chad has time.
Would the names come to Mike? Would they come to the executive subcommittee? Would we just bring individual names to the general meeting next month and then we would discuss and vote?
So my recommendation would be if the names are gonna come from the board, that we say, you know, within the next 2 weeks, if you have somebody that you wanna be considered, reach out to either myself or Mike with contact information. And then we can contact that person, make sure they're interested, make sure they're okay being considered on an agenda. And then at the May meeting, we'll just bring all those names that were submitted back to the board for discussion and consideration.
Okay.
Just for sake of, is it worth taking that group of names and putting it to either exec committee or something like that, to where you're coming back with 2 or 3 names, so we're not reviewing 12 names as a group? I mean, does it give it a little more unwieldy?
I think that's a good idea. And we actually are planning, the board clerk is working on scheduling finance and executive legislature committee meeting prior to the May board meeting. So we can put it on that agenda.
I just want
Madam
to, I do agree with the mayor's comments on, I think, whether it's from the board or staff, but I think that nexus to tourism. And it could be a transportation company, I don't, it doesn't have to be, you know, but I think something that's connected to
It needs to
visitorship,
be out there.
you know.
Amy needs to.
Yeah, force.
Go ahead, Mr. Officer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I had a chance to talk to my constituency at the Reno Sparks Chamber of Commerce. You know, Executive Director, President Ann Silver, who served on this board, was absolutely wholeheartedly supportive of the idea that perhaps a board member get that appointment and create the unity and workflows between what we do at the RSCVA and be the voice on the airport authority. So I fully support that motion. I think it'll also expedite our work for the May meeting, and we can identify someone amongst ourselves.
I believe within your team. Right, cause it comes down to, I don't know
Yeah.
what anyone's time is, I have no idea, but that's just my thought. Is that I would like to be able to have a little bit more communication and a vision with the airport from on this side of.
Well, and Mr. Jay's done an outstanding job representing the airport
Thank you.
and being our conduit.
Thank
No,
you.
he has, such a nice job.
We are losing him,
And
so we will not
bringing
have
back and forth,
Yeah,
so
no.
really.
your colorful comments.
Yeah, there you go, colorful.
My
Adamant.
colorful comments.
Yeah, well, I think we just have, we've taken it to the level, now it's time to take it to the next level. Working with Mike has been great, Darren, Taylor, I think, we got those 3 groups, Chamber of Commerce, 4 groups. Working together, we just have to take it to the next level, and I think that's why it's really important that whoever we put there understands what the job and title is. But also, like I said, again, my opinion, somebody either from the board or staff, I think would be ideal.
Okay, so any of you that have time, express that to Ben, I guess submit a letter of interest. And then we can go from there.
So I would say if we're gonna have board members generate names, my recommendation would be if you yourself or are interested, or you want to nominate somebody else or have somebody else be considered, get those names to Mike and I, say within 2 weeks. And then we will reach out to those individuals and have a discussion at the executive legislative committee next month in advance of the board meeting.
One thing I would say too, and I don't know, maybe you guys want to do this too, maybe it doesn't have to be someone from the board, but what I would ask, if we send someone over from the board, that they come to all of our meetings and they're participating with all of us, right? And then that way we also have the relationship and communication, but I would ask if we do put someone from the outside, that they come to these meetings as well, so that we are working together. I think it's one of the most important things that we do into this region. Brian Colpin back here, I'm sure would agree with me, and talking about the economic impact of one flight that comes into the region. What was it? From Southwest Airlines, it's how was
$30,000,
$130?
$30,000.
Yeah.
For one flight.
$125,000 and $150,000, depending on the amount of people on the plane.
Mhm.
One
So,
plane.
think about that, one plane. So it's just, I just think it's so embedded in or it has to be embedded in what we do. If we want to be successful in tourism and really getting people here. So that's the only thing I would say. If we look to outside, I would request that they come to these meetings and that we have the voice as one. Okay. All right, so do I get a motion?
So, I'll have one more thing
Do-
quickly, if I may.
Yeah.
So I just got a message here. So the restriction in the Airport Authority Act is that elected officials can't serve on the Airport Authority Board.
Thank God, yeah, so thank you for putting me and my colorful comments over there. You are sadly mistaken. And we have enough boards, we don't need to be over there.
The other thing should be to.
Everyone
Yeah.
except Charlene, Alexis and myself,
So potential motion
or every
would be
elected.
to move to approve a process for appointing the next RCVA representative. Would be for any board members that have a nomination that they want to be considered, to get those names to Mike and I within the next 2 weeks. We will reach out to those individuals. We will put them on an agenda for the executive and legislative committee that will review and possibly pare down that list of candidates to be brought back to the May regular board meeting for selection.
I make that motion.
Okay, so what he said,
What he said.
what they said. All right, so I have a motion from Richard J. Do I have a second? I have a second from John East. All those in favor say aye. And all those opposed, motion
Madam
carries.
Chair, will you take public comment on this item?
Absolutely, go right ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Board, Andy Chapman for the record. And just a little historical perspective on this, the appointment of the RSCVA board member to the airport has historically been a representative from the lakes tourism industry. Carol Chaplin was your most recent appointment. Prior to that, it was Andy Worth. And then prior to that, it was John Wagnon, and that goes back I don't know, about 26 years, so that goes beyond my time here. So I would encourage you to think about that. Obviously it's the Reno Tahoe Airport, and as we have all talked about how we are collectively working together on these things. I think keeping that historical kind of position that has happened in the past would be something that I think would be encouraging as we, work together between the mountain communities and the Reno Tahoe Sparks area. So thank you.
Well, thank you for the historical information. I did not know that Andy served on there. Okay, and you're correct about that. Okay, good comments. All right. Where are we at? Madam Clerk.
Item F2.
Okay, we're at F2. Is that you, Andy?
That's it.
Okay, you sat down too quickly. Okay, the floor is all yours, unless we have any public comment on this item, Madam Clerk. No? Okay, Andy, take it away.
Thank you, and thank you, Madam Chair and Board, for the record, Andy Chapman. I'm here on a couple of legislative items that we have going through the process. I know you guys are keeping your eye on some bills as well. The agenda item talks about three bill items that I was going to discuss, 402, 420, and 426. I'm not here to discuss anything on 402. We are not involved in that. That is a historic preservation special district. We are not involved in that right now. And I'll start with 426 because that one will be the quicker one that I can dispense of. 426 initially began and it was quite cumbersome when it came out of the committee, was a potential $4.25 surcharge on all lodging nights basin-wide in Lake Tahoe, which would include both Nevada and the California side. And it opened up the Title IX compact with the TRPA, which of course is fraught with peril anytime you do open up the compact, as that was done, by federal congressional direction. So through friendly amendments, we were really able to get the bill where as initially we wanted it, which was really a highway recreation safety corridor zone. So we were successful in removing the $4.25 surcharge. We were successful in removing the opening of the TRPA compact and really focusing on the Tahoe Transportation District, of which I am the chair of that organization right now and sat on that board for about 6 years. Really looking at the areas of Highway 28. I have them here somewhere in my notes. Highway 28, Highway 50, and State Route 207 and 431. So really looking at those recreation corridors and the demands that we have seen on that corridor with day use visitation and people just getting out into the great outdoors, which of course we encourage. The issue is that they are quite unsafe. If you've ever driven on Highway 28 in the summertime, and I know Mr. Long does that every day, it is quite treacherous with all the cars parked everywhere, kids running out between open car doors. It's pretty wild, as well as the parking issue. So this bill will allow the TTD to take on the enforcement of that zone, as well as parking citations, towing, and all those types of things as they relate, working with the jurisdictional sheriff's office as well as the Nevada Department or the highway patrol folks. So that bill came out of Senate on the Senate floor with the unanimous support of 21 votes earlier this week. And we look forward to seeing that one going on through the rest of the process. I'll pause on SB 426 in case there's any questions before I get to SB 428, which is really what we are interested in.
Okay, any questions?
No.
No, and you've been down there, Andy?
I'm sorry,
You've been down there?
at the
A lot.
legislative body?
Yeah.
Yes, a few times,
Good,
and a few
Okay.
more to come.
all right,
We know.
okay, good.
All right, so SB 420 is enabling language that would allow the Nevada side of Lake Tahoe to create a self-assessed business improvement district. Right now in Nevada, there is not enabling languages that allow a jurisdiction to create a self-assessed business district. There are tax increment districts, there are other, I know there's a downtown district here in Reno, but a self-assessment where the businesses are the ones that agree to be self-assessed for very specific funding opportunities for very specific projects. So we at Travel North Tahoe, Nevada and others, I know Washoe County has been involved with this. Harold Chaplin on the South Shore has been involved in this. Are very supportive of SB 420 because it does authorize counties to form business improvement districts to provide funding for transportation and mitigation of visitor impacts in the Lake Tahoe Basin. BIDs provide a stable funding mechanisms for destinations to fund activity improvements by authorizing the self-assessment by local businesses within the destination. The funds generated support the sustainability of the destination and thereby the business activity. Equally important is what SB 420 is not. It is not a tax that is being pushed out there with some folks. This is enabling language only that would then allow once, and if we are successful, which we hope we are, that we as a jurisdiction in Incline and Crystal Bay and in the Douglas County portion of Lake Tahoe could start working with our businesses to define what a district may look like and to define what those funds would be used for. Some of the things that we are looking at potentially to utilize those funds would be in 4 categories. One is transportation. There's actually some language that is most likely going to end up in the bill that is within the first 3 years of the 5-year district term. 60% of the funds generated need to be used to support transportation. As you know, and very much appreciated as we've come with our hat in hand here for TART Connect, this would allow us a mechanism to generate sustainable funding for that program and other transportation and parking needs that we have. Visitor impact mitigation would be the second category we'd be looking at. And that would be things such as increased trash collections, trash receptacles, maybe increased ambassadors out on the trailheads interfacing with the guests and the visitors and the users of our region. Make sure they understand how to do things and where to go where they create less impact. The third would be downtown core beautification. We know that in the Incline, I don't know if you've driven through Crystal Bay recently, but a lot of boarded up buildings up there right now. But you know, we need to work on our downtown core. You guys worked on that here in downtown Reno and downtown Sparks. I know we need to do the same thing and have that same opportunity. And the final one is economic vitality. We are a tourism economy. We know that, so we need to make sure that we do keep that pump primed. So this effort would allow the businesses in our jurisdiction, and we have over 50 letters of support that were submitted to the Senate committee hearing a couple of weeks ago. About half of those were residential letters and half of them were business letters. And I would like to read just a paragraph of the letter of support that EDOM provided us just a couple of days ago. But on behalf of the Economic Development Authority of Western Nevada, I'm writing to express our strong support for Senate Bill 420, which would authorize the creation of a business improvement district in the Nevada portion of Lake Tahoe Basin. As the region's Economic Development Authority committed to supporting, growing, and maintaining a vibrant and sustainable economy in Northern Nevada, we believe that this legislation would allow local businesses in Incline Village and Crystal Bay to work together to collectively address local impacts of tourism visitation in their communities. And that is signed by Taylor Adams, President and CEO of UDON. So the bill got re-referred to the Senate Finance because there's a fiscal note that we are trying to remove and are working on some language that will allow us to do that. And then we have anticipations that we'll get out of the Senate floor and we'll continue on with the sausage making. So here to request whatever individual support, both from your business that you work with, as well as your residents of Nevada. If you're interested, I know the clerk sent around some documents that we have put together with some information on there. Feel free to ask any questions either right now or post meeting. Happy to answer what I can. But this is a way for the Tahoe Basin. And I will say it initially started statewide. And we heard pretty quickly that that was probably not the best way to do it. So we shrunk it down to Lake Tahoe, which is really where the interest is and the need is, at least from our perspective. So, with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody may have.
All right, go ahead, Charlie.
Andy, one question. So, did the bill get out of committee on the 11th?
It did. It was it came out of the Senate committee. It was unanimously voted out of Senate committee. It had its second reading on the amendment on Tuesday, and then it received exempt status due to being referred to the Senate Finance. So we have an exempt status right now.
Okay, so the status, it will move then after finance back to the Senate floor and then over to the Assembly.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. I love this. I wholeheartedly support it. And I think a lot of us sitting here that are writing checks every year for TART Connect would really, this is kind of what we talked about when we're looking for is a stable source of financing for that transportation piece, which is so important.
Yeah, we're trying to look at locally generated funds for locally identified issues with local control. I mean, here in, we know we need to, pull our bootstraps up on these things, and this is a way that we're able to do it. And we have businesses that are ready to support this in our district.
Thank you.
That's half the battle, getting those guys to help you.
Yeah.
We did it downtown, so I understand it. Go right ahead, Stephen.
Yeah. I was just, Andy, thanks for the presentation. I was just curious, so upon passage of this, what do you think the timeline, then you're getting everybody together?
So we're currently engaged with an organization called Civitas that helps jurisdictions kind of look at the feasibilities of these. They kind of help with the language and bills and such across the nation. So we're doing a feasibility study right now in parallel of the legislative process. We believe once we are at the point where we can start it, it's probably a 12 to 18 month period of time to go through the referendum, because you got to get the votes of the businesses. Then it has to be approved by the county, and it's a very public, transparent process. So we figure maybe 12 to 18 months.
In 2 counties, right?
No, this is just this is only Washoe Tahoe. Our partners on the California side already have this ability and already have a T-bid in place that generates about $6.5 million annually to put towards visitor mitigating transportation and housing. As does the city of South Lake Tahoe on the California side. So the Nevada side does not have this means as of today.
So best case, when would collections begin?
If we started collections July 2026, I would be incredibly happy. It's most likely maybe January 27.
Okay,
Daddy had the camera.
all right. Eddie, hi.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. Andy, good to see you. Quick question about the BID effects upon IVGID. Has there been conversations there? And obviously the IVGID was intended to and has been doing some great stuff up there. I know that we've had some challenges with obstructionists on that board. Is there hope to bridge the work with the BID and the GID up at the lake to help the causes you guys are working towards?
Yeah, I believe so. We've had some initial conversations with a couple of the trustees up there in this regard, particularly around the transportation need and the opportunities that the BID would allow. Once again, this is enabling language, right? So the heavy work on actually creating a district management plan happens after we have the ability to do it. So I don't have all the answers of that, and it'll be business driven. So as we get the businesses together, identifying the district parameters, identifying who's in and who's out within that district, because not everybody would be in. I use the example of auto repair shops. Auto repair shops in Tahoe definitely benefit from the tourism industry because their clientele, for the most part, 6 out of 10 jobs are in the hospitality industry, are getting their funds through that tourism business. But would we assess the auto shop? Probably not. But I think the 4 areas of categories of visitor spend would be lodging, it would be food and beverage, it would be arts, entertainment, and recreation, and retail sales. There's some conversations about adding food stores and some elements of food stores and purchases within that, like the Rayleighs and such. But we will not get there until we have a discussion with the businesses that would be assessing themselves.
Okay. And then can I have a quick follow-up? Is there any concern about the businesses that are in that region that are hotel and lodging that might be included and the payments that they're already paying to RSCVA for other stuff?
Yeah, so we did receive letters of support from the Hyatt Regency, which is the largest hotel collector, obviously for us, as well as some of the smaller motel type properties. And we just were in front of the Incline Realtor Board earlier this week in conversations with them about what this is and anticipate levels of support coming out of the property management side. And again, I think it's important to note that these percentages on a BID would be from 0.5% to 1%. And the thinking, since the tourism industry has been on the backs of the lodging industry for so long, that maybe the lodging industry self-assessment might be on the lower end of that. And then maybe it's a 1% on the other industries that benefit from tourism. And again, businesses that generate more than X amount, say 25% of their annual revenues are generated from tourism visitor spend, they would be included in that. And they have to vote and need a majority vote of the businesses to move it forward and approval by the county.
Yeah. It's a process.
It's a process,
It's a process.
but there's opportunity.
Yeah, a lot. Actually, that's exciting for you guys.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? No? Do you need us to just accept it? We don't have to, but we just need to accept it.
Great.
Thank you so much, Andy. Okay, Madam Clerk, where are we at? Back up to D. All right, let's go into discussion possible action regarding, what is this?
Thank you, sir. Legislative update.
Yeah. Is Jesse,
So.
Point of order. Did we approve the consent agenda or the minutes, excuse me? Do we approve it? Okay. It's been a while.
And remember, we have a 2-hour time window, so we better get going.
We're gonna do it.
We're good. Easy.
Pressure's on.
So Mr. Wadhams had a legislative appointment, but he emailed me an update here. He's asked me to read. We're through 81 days of the 120-day session. Budget issues are very much at the forefront of the legislative thinking. On May 1st, the Economic Forum will give the final budget number for the session. Early reports show significant slowdown in the economy and a corresponding slowdown in tax revenues. This will become the major talking point for the remaining 39 days of session. And then he's provided some updates on a few bills. AB 144, which is the RSCVA Board Governance Reform, passed the Assembly 42-0. It will head to the Senate next week and should be heard in the next couple of weeks. At this time, there is no opposition. The bill continues to move through the process. I will be reaching out again for bill presenters once the item is scheduled. AB 333, which is the Reno Sparks Livestock Event Center ownership change to Department of Agriculture, passed the Assembly 42-0. Mr. Wadhams has been in touch with Director Goyachia. If there are any needed changes, they can be made in the Senate. SB 420, which is the Business Improvement District Mr. Chapman just talked about, has been moved to Senate Finance. It will be dealt with as the final budget is more formed. SB 426, which is Lake Tahoe Scenic Corridor. This bill has been significantly amended from its original form and now largely focuses on parking and traffic controls. It adds some additional enforcement opportunities around the basin for traffic. And that's Mr. Wadhams' update. If anybody has any questions or would like to discuss any of the issues with Mr. Wadhams, let me know and I can put you in touch with them directly.
Okay, any questions?
Mr. Leonard, have you guys had discussions on the livestock event bill? I mean, are we still, where's that at from your perspective?
So, Mike Largan for the record. So we've been in constant communication, both Ben and I, with Mr. Wadhams as it relates to updates. And Mr. Kennedy had sent some emails pertaining to the language in the bill just for clarification, which then Mr. Wadhams spoke to Mr. Goyachia, clarified that on our behalf. So as we sit here today, everything is status quo on what we've discussed with them in person and based on what's in the bill. Unless Ben disagrees, I think that's where we're at.
Could I bring one in that staff's probably gonna roll their eyes and just be like, God, would you stop bringing this up? There is a bill, it's either I messed this up last time, AB 81 or SB 81, or it's AB 18 or SB 18, but it's my dyslexia of taking in and flipping, keep track. But it involves staying on standard time and not observing daylight savings time. totally off the radar. It was just kind of brought up in a side discussion, and that party actually was a Vegas property saying, our main feeder markets are California. Are you sure we are aware of the unintended consequences of this? Not to mention, it isn't like we're staying on daylight savings. It actually will shift it to where sun will be coming up at 4 a.m. I just think, again, I don't want it to be one of these things that it passes and in 2 years we go back to try to fix it. I don't really know what the intent was, but I just think it'd be worth flagging with Jesse to say, from a tourism standpoint, I could imagine our golf partners, right, are gonna have issue. I could go down the list, getting into the weeds here, but a spa appointment from somebody in Truckee or
Or even recreation from the field sports, right? Whether it's flat fields or softball,
Right.
We need to turn the lights an hour earlier.
Yeah, and we're even just coordinating with our guests in Sacramento coming over for them. I just think it'd be worth getting on the radar and confirming what the intent was for.
It's a good point, Stephen. Our destination is very against it. The state line runs right through our North Shore. So like people coming to Incline for like tours, coming in or staying in Kings Beach, it would just be a huge mess.
It's a good point. Yeah, think about that.
I would just ask, is this actionable? Can we instruct? Yeah, I think so. Can we instruct Jesse to oppose that piece of legislation on behalf of RSCVA and actively work to articulate the concerns from a recreation and tourism destination in the north, the impact that will have?
Yes, we are agendized for action, so if you want to give that direction, you can.
Yeah, and that's what his job is, so, do you want to make a motion?
I'm happy to make the motion to instruct our lobbyists to oppose. Stephen, what's the bill number?
I might need the correct bill number first.
The
Daylight
daylight
savings.
savings.
SB 81
We're gonna let you know.
SB 81.
I move to instruct our law firm to oppose and lobby against SB 81.
Okay, that's great. And if we oppose the wrong bill number, I'm blaming Stephen as a backup. So anyway, okay.
Let's make that clear that it's SB 81 or the daylight savings bill, but it turns out it's not.
Okay, I'll amend my motion for clarity to oppose the daylight savings bill, which we believe is SB 81.
All right, I have a motion, I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed, motion carries. Okay, moving.
Yeah, can we make a correction?
Yeah, make a
It
correction.
is AD. Thank you, Lori.
Baby.
It's AD 81.
Yeah.
Can we redo the?
Do you need us to redo it?
Yeah, just so it's clean.
Okay.
Madam
All right,
Chair,
so
I
let's,
move we instruct our lobbying firm to oppose AB 81, these
All right,
daylight
so-
savings bill.
Second.
All right, I have a motion, I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Okay. Now we're gonna head into, I believe this is gonna be E1 and it's gonna be the department updates. That's gonna be you, Mike.
Thank you, Chair Mike, a very quick update
You
from
have
myself.
minutes, by the way.
We will make it in 6.5. As soon as I get my slides loaded from IT, I'll jump in. By the time I get there, hopefully they'll be loaded. There we go. For the record, Mike Largetta, as always do, I'll begin my update by recognizing the Employee of the Month Spotlight winner for the month of March. I received the following quote from the Spotlight Award winner's supervisor. This team member is the glue that holds the sales department together. She exemplifies that can-do spirit. She has a revolving door of requests throughout the day for various members of the meetings and conventions, sports and tourism teams that she handles most expediently. She is the report whiz and can reproduce the report you are thinking of with just fragments of verbalization. This is not only with organizational knowledge, but with the multitude of sales programs that she graciously takes the time to walk team members and stakeholders through to ensure they have a grasp on their needs. She recently collaborated with our sales CRM provider, Simple View, to create a tracking report that each property can utilize to enhance and improve property sales department processes. This module is now live and she has single-handedly trained each sales leader to use this tool. Oh, and her baked goods she makes for special occasions in the office should receive their own Spotlight Award. The March Spotlight Award winner, maybe, not. Uh-oh. We do not have a clicker. Here we go. There we go. The March Spotlight Award winner is our Executive System and Sales Administrator, Ruth Maldonado. Congratulations, Ruth. Yay, Ruth. Good clap.
Where's the baked goods?
I'm sorry?
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought she was bringing baked goods for.
I know. She has, trust us all. So very quick update, the RSCVA has partnered with the Reno Aces in an effort to activate downtown Reno.
Yay!
The host Banana Ball featuring the Party
Yay,
Animals
this is gonna
baseball
be
team.
big. Let me tell you, everyone wants to go to this.
Yes, my phone has been ringing as well. And these games will take place May 29th, 30th, and 31st. This marks a significant moment as the world famous Party Animals will play in Northern Nevada for the first time ever. All three games, to your point, Madam Chair, are sold out.
These guys are huge. If you want a lesson in entrepreneurship and tenacity
Yes,
and excitement and entertainment, go and.
follow them on Instagram. I do now.
I said, follow this guy on Instagram. They are.
Very inspiring.
And incredible.
Yep, yes. Great segue, based on demand. The good news is each one of you as our board will receive an invitation for you and a guest to a game on Thursday evening, May 29th. In the Reno Aces owner suite. The RSCVA sales team will also be hosting new planner professionals from the Midwest this evening. Invitations will be sent next week. After an extensive interview process, I'm happy to announce that Chad Peters has been promoted to Executive Director of Venue Operation. Chad joined the RSCVA in January of 2024 as National Bowling Stadium Manager. Chad was then promoted to Director of Operations at the MBS. In the 14 months as National Bowling Stadium, Chad has done an outstanding job in programming new events. This fiscal year, as I alluded to earlier, July 1 through June 30th, Chad has an event program at the MBS 48 out of 52 weekends and at least one midweek day, 51 out of 52 weekends. Chad has also done an excellent job of working with the United States Bowling Congress leadership team as we prepare for the Open Championship in 2026. We will not replace Chad's previous position as Director of Operations at the bowling stadiums until January of 2026, wearing many hats, Mr. Peters. Congratulations, Chad, and welcome to the RSCVA leadership team.
Congratulations. And even my job is I hear everything bad. That's just what happens in the mayor's office. And I gotta tell you, I'm hearing all great things about working with you.
Thank you.
And your energy level. Everyone's like, that guy's fire. So I love it. Thank you.
In closing, I wanted to update the board on three emerging opportunities. RSCVA project manager Amy Pickens, who is present today, will be leading the process of issuing RFPs to receive bids for preferred pouring rights at all four of our venues. In addition, Amy will be assisting Chad upon receiving approval from the city of Reno to issue RFPs to receive bids to rent space on the street level of the National Bowling Stadium, which currently houses the Bowling Hall of Fame. To welcome special events and convention attendees who arrive at the Reno International Airport, the RSCVA will be funding entertainment on the event or convention first arrival day. Bands will be positioned near the large bronze ski statue as guests exit the airport or make their way to the baggage claim area. Signage welcoming each event and convention will also be provided. The first event where entertainment will be provided will be this year's Reno Rodeo. We have identified 17 special events and major conventions who will be predominantly using airlift to arrive in Reno from June of 2025 through June of 2026. Lastly, CEO goals will be presented to the Executive and Legislative Committee in May, date to be determined in the very near future. Fiscal year 25-26 CEO goals will again be primarily quantitative goals aligned with performance. Senior staff has been tasked to complete goals for all staff members within the organization by June 30th, 2025, in an effort to make sure that everyone knows their goals as we get into next fiscal year. And my last comment before I hand the clicker to Mr. McGinnis is just a reminder, the May board meeting will be on May 22nd at 2 p.m. We'll be taking dinner orders because we have a very large agenda for that meeting, and it seems to be getting longer than shorter, so I apologize in advance. Mr. McGinnis, any questions before sorry?
No, but
2 minutes counting.
that is amazing. I've got allergies, so my throat's been really bad, but it's amazing that you are activating the airport in that way. It matters. It's the front door to our city. It really is. People love to see that. When you come in, they want to see excitement. It really sets the tone for Reno. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
It's gonna be great. We're
That's a
excited. The
big
team,
deal.
we met with the airport.
That was your idea, right?
It was, yes.
It's all his, in case it doesn't work out, it's his idea.
You travel enough and you go through enough airports.
No, but
see what
you
works.
know how I felt about the presentation of the airport and what it says to visitors. And it's problematic right now, what the presentation looks like when people get off flights. They should see things they wanna, that are Instagrammable and take their pictures, says I'm in Reno Tahoe, or I've always said, I think we should have people like David Weiss, Krista Palmer, Jeremy Renner. I choose Reno Tahoe, beautiful, pictures of them. Because right now, that's not what you see. And, it's just one of those things, first impressions count. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.
All right, great segue. A lot of groups coming in. John McGinnis for the record. Good morning, Madam Chair, Board, and guests. Groups right now through the first 3 quarters, we are up almost 37% at 208 groups.
That's awesome, awesome.
Absolutely amazing. The team is absolutely crushing it this year. Our average booking window is down 134 days at 9 months. So what that is telling us is that these decision makers are making their decisions quicker, almost 4 months quicker than they were year over year. So you've got the A team that's out there booking, and obviously it's shown because again, we're up almost 37%. Estimated attendees from these bookings is at 283,000 or almost 2% year over year. Contracted rooms from the hotels is down 8.3% at 247. I'm going to dig into that stat as well as the 1.7 that we're up in attendees in just a second. So that makes a little bit more sense. As more groups book, you should have more in those stats. So I'm going to answer that in just a minute. But our annual goal is 261,122. And currently through the first 3 quarters, we are at 95% of our goal. So looking very good going into 4th quarter, which is already underway. So digging back into that stat, last year we had 150 definite pieces of business for 268,000 room nights, compared to our 208, where we're sitting now at 247. The reason why this is off a little bit, and just to level the playing field, is in that 268,000 room nights is almost 76,000 room nights that's attributed to the 2026 USBC Open Championship. So if we back that number out, because we do not have that present in the 247 we are setting at now, we are ahead of goal by almost 36% year over year, which then drives your attendees up as well as your contracted rooms for the hotels. So doing very, very well. And that's all you get from me today.
John, excellent. That's amazing. Are you proud?
Oh, the team, I couldn't be more proud. The
He
team.
inherited a great team.
Gee, I wonder where.
He's done a great job.
You think, okay, good. All right, good, John. That's awesome.
Yes.
It's super cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Super awesome.
Very proud of the
We
team.
make it.
I think yeah.
Yeah.
All right, anything else? You don't need a motion, but it's all. Okay. Madam Clerk, I'm gonna send it back to you for board member announcements and reports. Anything, I know this one always has something to say, so we're gonna.
Yeah, I think I'll do this one while I'm going through email. Got a lot to report from the airport, obviously. There's, more RNO continues to move forward. We had a presentation yesterday, working on our budget, being very cautious. I gave Courtney the one of my favorite books to read, the Federal Reserve Beige Book.
Oh, gosh.
And
I'm excited.
exactly, but I just, as I said, I've been very cautious, and I think we just have to be prudent going forward. We looked at some, we're about 60% design build for the 2 new concourses. They look fantastic, made some changes. I think you're going to be really excited with the openness out there, a few little changes we've made. Airport continues to be the busiest since March of 2009. Interesting comment came up, everybody's kind of saying, well, if we still haven't beat 2008 numbers, how are we having all this parking? And what we have to remember is that back then we had Reno Air. Reno was the hub for Reno Air. So if somebody came in from Timbuktu, changed planes in Reno and went to wherever, Tallahassee, that counted as one person, even though they didn't really do anything here, that counted it. So we're almost at the point, and we'll probably surpass it really soon, of beating those numbers when we had Reno Air here. So I think that's really important. We've got a number of us board members being turned out come next month. So, you know, Darren's gonna have some new board members, and we continue to work really hard with RCVA, EDON, as well as the Chamber of Commerce. So do you want me to jump in Pembroke?
Yeah.
Okay.
We talked a little bit about fields.
Yes. So, you know, in the past, we have talked about fields, the need of more flat fields. We're just missing that boat so much. We just recently had a tournament 2 weeks ago, and we utilized 11 fields in Carson City, 3 at Golden Eagle, and then 3 at South Valley. There's no reason why we should be sending that money to Carson City. I mean, granted, you know, it's tourism for the community, but we should be seeing that in Reno Sparks. There's no reason why we can't get that business. Of 146 teams that came in, 109 of them were from out of state. Okay, we generated over 2,000 room nights. There's no reason why we can't see those here. So Mayor and I have been working with Pembroke, and what I'd like to do is start putting a committee together to start pursuing this, because we've got a couple ideas. And what I'd like to see is myself, obviously, Ben, kind of for legal support, Shelley Fine for the athletics component of it, Christine for marketing, Courtney for finance, and Nathan, I've already talked to Nathan, City of Reno Postal Rec Director. So I think, you know, real soon we're gonna get together, start filling it out. We've got the basic design plans for Pembroke, came about 23 million, but I've been able to whittle that down probably to about $15 million by using local sources and some in-kind donations. So we've got to figure that component out, but we're probably gonna need about $250,000 to finish all the plans for it. It would host 10 fields out there, and we can start hosting these bigger tournaments and get those, you know, heads and beds, butts and seats to our Reno Sparks area. And I can guarantee you this much, we have something to offer in this community that Vegas can't. Tahoe, Donner, Virginia City, cool nights.
Cool nights. It does not cool down there. It's
Exactly,
miserable.
it's miserable.
People don't wanna go there in the summer.
I've taken teams down there for state cup championships, and we're playing on AstroTurf fields that are the, you know, temperature's 120 degrees. It's horrible. We can offer so much better up here. Also have some opportunities on.
We can offer someone better.
You
No one from Vegas is watching.
Sorry, but you know, I'm just telling you the truth.
Trouble the other day for actually saying Reno was better from Vegas.
Yeah, but you're elected, I'm not. So, and then we got an opportunity that we might be able to, before COVID, we had the opportunity to host a Olympic development team, region for 14 and 15-year-old girls having their region camp up here at the University of Nevada. Had it pretty much in place, using their fields, their dorms in the summer. We lost out the last minute, but we were one of the finalists. We have something maybe pending that I think we can do this again, so we'll keep you posted with that. And you know what I'm talking about.
And the other thing, we should have a conversation, maybe it's a board agenda item of looking about putting turf into our facilities or some way we can continue to expand on that mission. Sound good?
Yep, I'm in.
All right, we're gonna move into, oh, Eddie, sorry, we don't.
Sorry, I know you want to be done soon.
That's always my
real-
problem. Go ahead.
Briefly, Mayor, I just wanted to give a quick report. The Reno Sparks Chamber of Commerce is doing a tremendous amount of work. I mean, we're just continually growing. It's testament to the community that many of your jurisdictions are creating for a business-friendly environment here in the North. Businesses continue to flock to the chamber. I think we are surpassing numbers that we've never seen in historically. One of the things that I wanted to bring to the board in form of comment as we prepare for our budget, as many of our businesses are looking deep into their budgets and having to tighten the belt strap and figure out where to cut costs. We know that the cities and the county are looking to do similar things. I would ask that our staff in preparation bring forth all contracts that we could possibly review in advance of our upcoming budget build for RSCVA and find ways to save costs where necessary. I know it's not actionable, but it's just a comment I'd like to put out there for staff to prepare for. Thank you.
Good work. Thank
Well,
you.
with the finance committee meeting coming up, maybe that's natural to tee up that discussion. I was thinking similar to.
We're sure.
Yeah, and in a similar vein, we've had every department prepare contingency plans, like if revenues do come in under predictions, how would you cut your budget? 5% in that first quarter, what contracts would you cut, things like that. So we have performed a pretty in-depth review as part of budget preparation.
And we've done that. We've had my staff do that both on Courtney and Henry, the administrative side, as it relates to staffing, merit, COLAs, bonuses. And then the staff department heads are doing that both from a just purely budget perspective in their respective departments.
And then Mike, one thing that I'd love for you to bring back, because we looked at the committees and sort of rotating, because some people wanted to be on some and some people actually were coming off because of board change in seats. So if you could, I don't know if you email them or bring them to the board, I don't know how that works.
Okay, I can get with Ben and figure out what that's what it is.
Okay,
Those are all your appointments.
well,
You get to
whatever
just
you
do
guys
it.
want to do, I mean, I don't think any of us really care where we sit on unless you have a big passion for it, and so if you want to be on something,
Okay.
let us know. Okay, that being said, I just want to recognize one of my team members here, and she is always very humble and she's sitting in the back. Emily, thank you so much for being here. I always appreciate the work you do. She's one of the best auditors ever. She's that one where I think you come up and present and everyone else goes, oh no. But I love her for that. I love her for that. She's amazing. So thank you for being here. I just wanted to recognize you. And any public comment?
No public comment at this time.
No? Okay, well, that's great. So then the best motion. Can I get a motion? Okay, thanks. I have a motion.
A second.
Second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed. Motion carries unanimously. Imagine that.
2 hours.
Everyone agrees on that. 2 hours. Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks for that. Okay, perfect.